So I'm really glad and excited that Pablo Trautwein is joining me for today's episode, and he studies creative technology at the University of Twente, and that's also where he co-founded AER. More detail, he will probably explain that later to you. But at first, I want to tell you how we actually met each other. It was a bit, from my position, a bit weird. So the first time I talked to Pablo was when I wrote to the Facebook page of Hardstart, which is a startup hub for student entrepreneurs at the University of Twente, and accidentally just typed "Hey" without anything else. And the worst part was that he actually answered in a split second, which I obviously didn't expect. And yeah, that's like "Hey" was the start of the interaction we had between us. Anyway, it turned out that we came along pretty well, and also worked for him for a startup during this entire summer, and got to know the whole company and what they actually do or have been doing meanwhile. So before my actually first question I usually ask since the last episode, I now want to Pablo ask it first, what is AER? So written as AER. What is that, and like what do you do?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be on the podcast. AER is the name of the company I co-founded, and is also the name of the first and only product we did so far. It's a GoPro, so an action cam accessory that allows people to throw their GoPro literally in the air to take aerial photos and videos. For people who've never seen this, it looks roughly like a foam dart, about 45 centimeters high, that has two wings. It's made from dark black foam, and you put your GoPro camera in the front, screw it all together, and then you can throw it up, similar to how you would throw American football and things like that, only with the difference that it doesn't spin, so you get stable aerial footage. Yeah, that's the product. And then the company was kind of brought to life through crowdfunding. We did a Kickstarter campaign in 2016 with that product, where we got the first 2,000 people to give us the money up front to back the Kickstarter campaign. And then eventually, yeah, we were able to produce it, and we're now selling our product worldwide, and currently working on the next product.
Ooh, something cool to come.
Yeah.
And so you explained basically the product that you can throw your GoPro into the air and get some nice footage. But how would it be? So when I ask you now, what do you do? What would you say? Especially if you try to explain it to an old lady of, for example, 94 years old, which doesn't know GoPro or like aerial footage or something like that. How would you explain this?
Mm-hmm. If she would ask me directly, like, what am I doing? I would say something like, I would use a term that I think is kind of really fun, and I'm proud to call myself that, and that would be inventor. I would just tell her, like, I'm an inventor. I invent things. Well, I invented one thing so far, but still I would like to call myself an inventor. That's always kind of even been a dream of mine, to be that. And to become that. It was funny because just recently we were looking at one of those kind of friends books that you would do in grade school. You kind of fill out your hobbies and all of these things about you, and I wrote inventor as like my what do I want to become. And I thought, oh damn, I kind of did it. No, but if I would try to explain the product and try to explain to an old lady what am I actually doing, like what did I invent, I would say something that actually would align with the mission statement of AER, which is, I would say something like, I'm inventing things that empower people to capture the world around them differently than they have ever before. So I would say something like, cameras are a thing that even old ladies know. So I would say I'm inventing things around cameras that enable people to use the cameras in new ways. And and then if she would be curious and ask more, then I would go into detail and say, basically you just throw your camera up and you catch it again. And then she would hopefully understand.
that sounds like a pretty solid, easy explanation. Just throw up your camera and
Yeah.
catch it again.
Yeah.
And what happens if you
it.
don't catch it? Does it break?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, that's a question all of my customers ask me as well. Yeah, it does break. If you're not happen to be at a really soft beach or snow around you, so if you're just out on the street on a really hard surface and you don't catch air with the GoPro, it can break. So it will not always break, but it can definitely break. There's a risk. Yeah.
Okay, you just already like touched on the next part where I wanted to go. And it's like
Okay.
you said, as the kid you wrote in the small book, you want to be inventor.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the first time you wanted to go in the direction, or how were you as a kid? Like, was it already going to this direction?
A little bit. I don't think I was like a crazy genius that was like building things all the time. No, like, but one of the favorite things of me as a small child to do was play with Legos, and I would get bored with, like, you know how you buy a package of Legos and it's like a certain thing that you should build from it. I got bored really quickly with that and always tried to build my own things. And that's very different from inventing a product, of course, but maybe it was already like a hint into that direction, to kind of make your own stuff. Yeah, I'm just finding all these like references because, I mean, obviously as a child, you're not really actively thinking about what you want to do in life all the time. At least I wasn't. But for example, if that's also something that people can relate to, all the Donald Duck books and all these like Disney books, there's this one character who's an inventor. I only know the German term. It's Daniel Düsentrieb. He was always like my favorite guy, like my favorite character out of all of them. So maybe that's also a hint. Like, but I wasn't actively looking or actively thinking about becoming an inventor all the time. Actually, to be completely honest, until I was maybe like 12 or 13, I always wanted to be a professional football player. Like that was another dream of mine because it was a big hobby of mine. But yeah, I think the whole thing solidified after I graduated from high school and then eventually started to study creative technology. At that point, I was really sure, like, okay, I definitely want to be inventing things and making new products and things like that. Yeah.
And why did you go away from your dream of becoming a football player?
No, I wasn't good enough. Like I wasn't in a. I mean, I was in a decent team that kind of played regularly and lots of practices and stuff. But the team, first of all, wasn't like in any real, like there wasn't like we weren't in a super high league, and even within that team, most of the people were better than me. So at some point, I just had to realize and adjust my game plan.
Okay, and from then on, basically, when you started to study creative technology, your entrepreneur geist was coming through. And what was like the first, initial thing you did in this direction, or what showed you that you want to do this?
So even before I went to the University of Twente, I was in touch with, this idea of doing your own thing was all around me already, because my dad is kind of like a solopreneur, so he doesn't have his own company, but he's he just works for himself and has like his own thing. So that's always like been something that I grew up with. Just realized that he doesn't have a boss. Like my dad never had a boss or talked about his boss. He was just like his own boss and could decide his own schedule and stuff, which is something that I always found cool. And then on the other side of my family, the brother of my mom, so my uncle, actually has his own wood shop in South Germany, and that's always been like a family business that was started by my grandpa, and then my uncle took it over, and by now my cousins are running it. So that was also like, I also got this influence from that side of the family, that they're also just doing their own thing and they're their own boss, and they even employed people and had this like kind of decent sized company. So I've always been like kind of in touch with the whole entrepreneurial side of things. And then, yeah, I started to study creative technology, and like within the first weeks of the study, you get all these guest lectures by people who you actually interviewed. The founders of Atom with their product Homie were one of the people I got to know within like the first few weeks of being in Twente. And they were creative technology students just like I was, and they did a Kickstarter campaign just as I eventually did. And they were kind of already like, whoa, look, they just kind of started with their own thing, and now they have this big company. So that was already like the first inspiration, I would say. Yeah.
What kind of feeling did it create when you saw, for example, Atom, as they already had like the crowdfunding campaign and actually kind of made it to something? What did make you feel that you also wanted to start it?
What made it? Yeah, it made me feel like it's possible. It's like I've never met somebody who just like did something like this, and then all of a sudden they were just like there, and they did the same study as me, and everything became like more realistic and more like within hand's reach of my own capabilities. So it became an inspiration in that way. It felt doable. Like, oh, if they did it, I can do it. Yeah, and it was inspiring. And on top of that, what they did back then, and this was like 2014, was crazy, because they had this smart home, and I think people should listen to your podcast if they want to know more about the guy. But they were back then doing what now Amazon, Google, and Apple are doing. So they were like really ahead of their time, and just their product was like back then like super impressive to me. Yeah.
So what they basically did during the lecture was showing you that it is possible to do something like this. But did you have then the feeling already before that you wanted to do it, but just didn't have like the courage to actually do it? Or what made it?
Not really. Not really. Before that, I was just like trying to figure out what to do with my life in general. It took me some time to find creative technology. So actually, I finished high school already 2 years prior to that. Did a bunch of different things, worked some jobs. I went to art school here in Stuttgart, even for a year, and I was just trying to like find my way and find out what I really want to do. And creative technology like spoke to me, and it was like, oh yeah, you can develop your own things, and it was already advertised as something very entrepreneurial, but I wasn't actively pursuing. And actually, at the point where I got to know Atom, I was focused on like doing the study. So I was like, all right, cool. I came here to Twente to do the study. And even when I got this like feeling like, oh, this is really cool, you can do your own things here and start your own companies, it's not something that I was like actively pursuing yet. I was just like, okay, cool. I just settled in now, and let's do the study for a few years, and then let's see what happens. Yeah.
And so you already kind of knew that you wanted to do it. In this sense, after you went to Twente, I think, right?
Yeah,
yeah. And how did it then, like, get to the point where you actually started?
With AER, yeah. Yeah, I met Mark and Nick through my study. They were my co-founders with AER, and I've met them, and they've always, like, ever since I kind of got to know them closer. So in the beginning we didn't really talk, and then at some point we connected. I connected with Mark, and then he always brought Nick along, and they were always like up to stuff. They were always like doing some kind of entrepreneurial endeavor, whether it was starting Hardstart, which I kind of joined in early on, or they were at the time working on something called Examenspot, all about like creating value and cheat sheets basically for high school students in the Netherlands. So they were working on that. Then they were working on some app for like LinkedIn and stuff. So they always had like their projects going, and they would tell me about it and keep me kind of updated, because we just became friends. So that was like my next touching point with entrepreneurship was Mark and Nick. Yeah, and then eventually I always found it fascinating what they're doing, even though like the two products that I just mentioned I wasn't like a big fan of, but I thought it was really cool that they're doing this kind of stuff. Yeah, and then eventually Nick kind of pitched the idea of AER to me, or to me and Mark, and then it just kind of like the ball started rolling, and we built some prototypes, and we tried it out, and they were already from the very, very beginning doing this with in the back of their head, like, oh, we can make this a company. Like it never just started just for fun. Like it was a lot of fun, but they always did it with the intention of making this a business from the very beginning on. And when we realized the potential after having built the first few prototypes, we were like, okay, this could actually work. Like the footage looks amazing. It's something we hadn't seen before. Everybody we showed was like, whoa, what? You just threw a camera. So yeah, we realized the potential, and then we decided to take it seriously and pursue it. Yeah.
So as you just mentioned, you were kind of dragged into it with the people you met. Right? Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, I think there was a legit interest in myself already. Like I was interested in this kind of stuff, and I thought it's fascinating. But then, yeah, I was kind of dragged into it, more or less, you could say, by Mark and Nick, yeah.
And how did it, like, the interest show itself you had before already? Like, were you searching on the internet all the time for, I don't know, something in film production, or how to do a startup, or in business magazines? Did you do something?
Not me myself, but the study. It's an like all apparent kind of topic within creative technology. It always comes back within the study. This kind of topic of entrepreneurship and starting your own business. So through the study, I got exposed to a lot of that stuff, and I always thought it was cool. And yeah, me myself, I mean, if you think about filmmaking, I always thought it was fun to take photos and videos, but I never thought that I would do something in the field of photography or videography. I mean, I had a GoPro and I was filming some stuff like snowboarding and things like that. But the real passion that I now have for making videos came to be with AER, with the start of AER. Yeah.
That's cool. So you developed with this building the product also the passion to make those more professional videos and photos as well.
Oh yeah, certainly. I've never done a professional video or photo in my life before I started there. Yeah.
And what I also saw, or like when I was working with you as well, it is quite difficult at times. Do you have like an example what went wrong while you were doing it, while you were trying to build this company, and how did you get around this?
Yeah, wow. There were many things that went wrong along the way, for sure. It was a roller coaster, still is. Things still go wrong all the time. I definitely don't have my shit together. Several things. I think what you're kind of getting to is the whole manufacturing production process, because that's also what you ended up helping with. Yeah. So yeah, we were like the typical Kickstarter campaign. We're like young, ambitious group, unexperienced, with like big dreams of a product that's very ambitious, and we did the same mistake as every Kickstarter does, which is, or not every, of course, but many do the same mistake, which is saying like, once we have the money, we just make our molds and we get production running, and you'll have it within like 6 months. No, that wasn't true. It ended up taking way longer than that, for several reasons. And one of the big reasons was that one of the manufacturing partners that we had didn't deliver the right quality and in the right time frame of what we had planned. And it all kind of started with our product with us being forced to kind of redesign our product after our mold was already done. So the way our product works is, or our production process works, is that it's kind of an injection mold with a lot of pressure. So it's kind of the same as a plastic mold, only with the addition that there's a lot of pressure put onto these particles, and they start foaming, so they expand, and it ends up being like a foam solid product. This is like obviously a very expensive process to make this injection mold. So that's what we needed the money from Kickstarter for, to make those molds. And we never had a chance to actually test this beforehand. So we just kind of made the signs, and we had a solid block of the same material, and we would like with a CNC machine cut out kind of the shape of the wings and test it out and build prototypes. And those prototypes, whenever we used them, they would just break. Like if you wouldn't catch them, they would just like fall apart. And we would always say like, yeah, okay, but it's not the real thing. Like once it comes out of an injection mold, it's going to be much more durable, much stronger, and it won't be a problem. It won't break anymore. So then we got our mold done for several thousands of euros, super expensive thing. Had it done, got the first products out, threw them, didn't catch them, landed on the street, completely shattered into pieces. We're like, okay, we're supposed to ship in 6 weeks to all the customers. Like, what are we gonna do? So that was already the start. And then, we ended up redesigning the whole thing, and we figured out a solution that actually works pretty well. But it made the whole assembly process of the product a lot more complicated. So we introduced an additional part, and if anybody wants to know all of these things in detail, I really recommend checking out our Kickstarter page. We did like incremental updates, because that's one of the things that we did right within that whole chaos. We always kept the people who backed the project up to date. So we always would give them incremental updates about what we're doing. And I think there was an outrage, and people were definitely disappointed and pissed that it took so long. But it would have been much, much worse if they didn't get these updates and we didn't do all of this in full transparency. And that's also something I'm still seeing with other Kickstarter projects that have similar issues, that they don't communicate it enough. And that's what makes it so difficult for the people to be understanding and to kind of, have empathy for them and to keep supporting them. So we kept them up to date, and if anybody wants to know in more detail, check out the Kickstarter updates. But we introduced this extra part, which is carbon fiber rod in the center of one of the rods, in the center of one of the wings, and it's kind of a awkward way of manufacturing, because you have this injection mold, and then afterwards you have this extra part that needs to be glued in to the wings, which is not even easy to do. Like you need 2 people to glue one wing together. And all of this was kind of like way too complicated and way too work intensive for this manufacturing company that we had. And they kind of like said, oh yeah, we'll do it. It will be no problem. And then they started gluing them. They came back in really bad quality. They came back way too late. They would fall apart. It wasn't properly glued. Then we had also the problem that our communication with that company was super difficult, and they wouldn't answer emails anymore, and we tried to make progress and they wouldn't deliver, and blah blah blah, like lots of back and forth. And that's kind of what went wrong. And we still had the backers all the time putting pressure on us to finally deliver. How we got out of it eventually was saying, all right, this is not working, we have to find a completely new approach, let's glue them ourselves. So we rented a warehouse, got some people to help, including you, and started gluing 4,000 products ourselves together. And that's how we got out of it eventually. Got our hands dirty and did it ourselves.
Oh, what a fascinating story. That's how it works all the time. Figure some shit out.
Yeah.
But you actually mentioned a couple of things which I also wrote down beforehand, which I still want to go more into detail. So you mentioned, for example, what was really, really important, the incremental updates for the customers. And I still remember you every single morning sitting at your laptop answering those emails. How did you get like so passionate or compassionate also with the customer, and felt kind of really engaged with them and the need to do this?
There was a big part of me that was just thankful for them, like giving us the trust and actually like giving us the money up front. In a way, I felt kind of ashamed and bad that everything is going so bad. And at that point, like when you saw me answering those emails, like there was like light at the end of the tunnel already. Like that was a point where we were like, all right, like we can do this. We'll just glue it ourselves and it will work out. We had done the first tests, and it was like finally on the way up again. Before that, like if you would have seen me a few weeks before that or months, we were like clueless if we could even make this product at all. We were like, okay, damn, everything's going wrong. I felt very. I didn't feel like I have a choice, or like, oh, I could do emails or not. I always felt like, okay, I have to answer those emails. Those people gave us the money, and now they want to know when their product is coming. So I felt a lot of pressure in a sense to keep them happy, and to answer them. And I felt responsible kind of for what we had promised. We had promised that we would give them the product. They gave us the money, and it's only right to then also do the best you can to deliver the product, but also, of course, to communicate everything clearly and openly, keep them up to date.
Yeah, I think if I would, how long did it take in the end, and from the Kickstarter campaign until they got the product? It depends on when you actually ordered, because we had this long process of gluing. We ended up sending in batches, so we didn't send everyone their AERs at once, but we sent like 200 a week, and then the next 200, the next 200. So the Kickstarter campaign was in September of 2016, and then the first ones we shipped in, I think it was July, August 2017. So that's like 8-9 months, I guess. Right? Let me get that right now. Almost 10, 11 months. And then after that, the last ones we actually shipped were right before Christmas 2017. So we shipped from August until Christmas. We glued, we packaged, we shipped, we glued, we packaged, we shipped, we glued, like over and over and over again. Yeah. So basically it took almost a year of pressure, gluing, figuring out the manufacturer, until you actually could send your final product to the customer. Yeah. And then for me comes the question, how can you persist so freaking long, your focus on this, your passion towards sending those products to the people, and like over a year, and I saw how hardworking you were on like every day putting the effort in to send it to them. Yeah, I didn't feel like I had a choice. I thought like, I'm in it now, I gotta get out of it, and the only way to get out of it was to do what I did. The other option would have been to just like give up, and then that was never something I considered. So I just felt like I don't have a choice. I need to do this. And also, I think it may come across worse now than it actually was. Like, a lot of that year was also fun, like figuring all of that stuff out. It was a crazy feeling to be even running your own company and producing these things and making this thing that we worked on for another year before that, just making this product. It was a really cool and fulfilling feeling to also be doing that. And then there was definitely like a dark period where it was frustrating and difficult, and I was working way too much. But another big factor was then once we started shipping out the first product, even though they weren't perfect and even though some of them still broke, it was insane to have people all over the world using it and posting their photos online using our hashtag and kind of being super excited about it. And that was another big motivation boost for me.
once people had it, the first people had it, and I think it started like the first ones we sent out were just 100 out of the 2,000 Kickstarter backers. And within those first 100 were already some people producing some crazy content. I started during the same period of time, even a bit before that. We started this ambassador program where we would send out earlier prototypes that didn't have the carbon fiber rod yet. We sent it out to like 4 guys that we selected. They started taking the first shots. We got their feedback, and then the kind of ball started rolling, and that was a super motivating feeling. And it just showed me that like it's worth it. Like all of the struggle is worth it, because in the end, it's insane to have people use the thing that we developed and actually take photos and videos. Yeah.
Was that the thing that kept the fire burning the most, when the first people were like using it and showing how good it is or giving feedback?
Yeah, I think that's still what keeps the fire rolling. It still is.
What does it do? Like, what does it do to you when you see that?
It makes me so proud. That maybe sounds stupid, but it makes me so proud. Whenever people take these photos and these videos and post them online, whether it's like just some random guy on Instagram who does it, it's so cool to see. Like, okay, this guy went out of his day, bought this thing like with his own money, gave me actually like actual money for it, and then went out, used it, and is actually happy with the result he got. So happy that he posts it on Instagram. Like, that is such a cool feeling. And that's what keeps me motivated every single day. Like, if I ever, like, it's also like, this is not something I realize that you have with every product or every business. And it's similar with Lensball, I assume, because they also take photos and stuff. It's both a very visual product. But yeah, whenever I need a motivation boost, I go on Instagram, go hashtag throw your GoPro, and there it is. Like, there's your motivation for the day. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So it's just like, okay, somebody else is using it. Yes, now I can work further.
Yeah, I guess so. It's a circle that just keeps going. Then I work more, then I sell more, then the next day I have more people posting stuff.
So you're like a small workaholic as well, I guess. Since how do you want to get all this product out, satisfy all the customer with the customer support and everything like that? So like, how much do you work at it for it?
I work less now than I did back then, but I still work a lot. I still work basically every day. I work every day, and I work more than 8 hours every day for sure. So I work a lot, but it's not as bad as I did back then when we had to do all the gluing, because that was a different situation. There I really felt the pressure, and I felt like, okay, if I now, instead of going home at 8 p.m., I go home at midnight, that's 4 more hours. That's like another 50 things that I can glue. That's another 50 customers who are happy. And now it's like we're not doing the gluing ourselves anymore, which is really cool. And now I'm more responsible with like my own health and well-being. And I'm like, okay, it's 8 o'clock. There's still stuff to do, but let's just go home and start over tomorrow. Yeah.
So you already go a bit from the workaholic part towards, okay, let's focus on the important parts and see what's really has to be done. Yeah, that I'm also in the moment kind of building up a new team of people around me who can help me with stuff. I'm trying to delegate as much as I can, get people to do stuff for me, and kind of make this because I mean I had these co-founders, but as you know, but as the listeners might not know, eventually I was alone again because they had left the project. So during the end of 2017, I was doing this as kind of like everything by myself, solo thing. And right now I'm building up a team again. So I have like 2, 3, 4 people around me who I'm delegating things to.
and who take over stuff and take over responsibilities, and I'm kind of trying to delegate decision making also, so that I'm not have to do all the decisions, but I can, get somebody who will do social media for me, and then they will decide what to post on Instagram and things like that. So yeah, and on top of that, I don't want to be working every single day, every hour or every minute. I have other interests, and I think in the long term it's a better strategy to not work as much, but be able to actually keep it going for years, instead of like burning through all your energy in 2 years and then have like a burnout and stop everything altogether.
That sounds really wise already.
I guess I'm definitely way more wise than I was 2 years ago or 1 year ago. Yeah, still not so wise, I think.
That's pretty convenient for me. You already went into another topic, which I also wanted to say was what happened. Not really what happened, but what is the difference between you working in a team with like your co-founders and the part where you basically had to do it by yourself? Did it change your attitude and like how to work? Did it give you more energy, or like did it take some? What was that?
Mm-hmm. First, I should say that it wasn't like a decision I had made, like, oh, I want to do this by myself. No, it was more a decision that was forced upon me by the other team members saying like, okay, we're out. You should do, or you have to do this yourself now. So I was just kind of like put into this situation where all of a sudden I was alone. I just had to adjust. All of a sudden I had all the responsibility on my side. I didn't have anybody to ask anymore for permission to do certain things. In the end, it was the best thing that could have happened, because prior to that, there were people in the team who were still theoretically involved in AER, but they weren't in it with their heart anymore, and they didn't do it for the right reasons anymore. They just did it because they kind of felt an obligation to it because they were in it. But at some point, they officially kind of left, and they were officially out. And then at that point, I felt like kind of the weight that I was trying to drag along with me on this ride was finally gone. And I was just like, okay, boom, the weight is gone. Like, let's go. And then I was just like, execute. And I didn't have to ask anybody anymore. Like, oh, what do you think of this Instagram post? Hey, what if we would do it this way? Blah, blah. I was just like doing stuff and making decisions like every day. I'm just like, okay, we're going to do this way. Okay, we don't have time to think about it. We'll do it this way. All right. We need people to work. All right, Julian, you want to work? Okay, you work. Bam. And just like stuff was happening, and the energy was definitely like back up. And I felt, and I didn't only feel that way. It was the first time that I could make all the decisions by myself. And that certainly sped things up. And even though it was a lot more work for me all of a sudden, because obviously the other people until that point were doing many things, and I had to take over all of their responsibilities and their like daily tasks. And I just kind of was forced to adjust, and I adjusted. And right now, and I kind of became this like solo guy who does everything by himself. And now I'm trying to reverse that and trying to get back into this kind of team mentality and getting people to help me out, which is also not easy. Yeah.
But it seemed also that you kind of liked that you kind of were forced in this situation to do everything by yourself, but still, as I saw it just right now, where like you had still a lot of energy while talking about it. So do you feel then maybe more energized when you can do everything by yourself, or more like in a team?
I guess if I can do everything by myself, it's just like the decision making is so much easier, because I just have to make a decision by myself, and then that's it. And there's nobody I need to justify this decision to. Like, I just did it this way, and we will never know how it would have been if I did it otherwise. Like, no, there's nobody to kind of give me feedback, which of course speeds things up, but is also very, very dangerous, because you're just kind of, you can get into this bubble where all you see is like your own perspective on things, and then you lose the overview, and you need people. Like, I'm 100% sure that I cannot keep running this company by myself. I cannot, like, it's impossible. I need more people to help me to do all of this, and more importantly, I need the right people, and I need people that can trust me, that I trust, and that trust me, and I need the right people, and then I need to keep the right people, like keep them if they're good, and not because I don't think the people I founded AER with were the wrong people, but I wasn't able to keep them. Like, they just decided to do other things instead, and now if I get good people again, I need to make sure that they stay with the project. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it is more like you need to have more people to run a bigger company, right? But
yeah,
do you enjoy more working for yourself, or like when you have to make decisions in a team? Because I see it as also a lot of fun when you can work in a team, like have ideas, jump around and stuff like that. But yeah, how's that for you?
No, maybe this came across wrong in my previous answer, but I definitely also enjoy being in a team. It's not just that I need to have this team. It's motivating to have people around you who share the same passion and have the same kind of drive to do it and to bring the project forward. One of the examples that I have for this is that it's sometimes was so lonely for me, and I felt the loneliness way more in the successes than in the things that went wrong. Like if this gluing stuff went wrong and things went bad, and even like it also, I should mention this, once we started taking over the gluing process, it wasn't like all sunshine. Not everything like worked out perfectly. There was also times where some stuff completely went wrong, and we like did a lot of work, like a week worth of work for nothing, because it ended up being the wrong thing and stuff. But those weren't the moments I felt lonely, because then I was just like, okay, let's just get through this. And I was so busy like working that that I didn't feel lonely. But when I felt lonely was during the times when there was success, because like one example for this is our product was used in a commercial shoot for an advertising campaign for Nike. So Nike, I knew this because I was in touch with the camera crew beforehand, and they ordered some airs, and then they got their airs, and then it took some weeks for them to shoot the whole thing and edit it, and then all of a sudden it was like published, and there was this like super fancy Nike commercial that had 2 shots from AER in it. That was something I'm like, Nike has like always been one of my biggest inspiration in terms of marketing. I think Nike does insanely good marketing and good videos in particular. And I remember sitting at home and seeing this video and being like so pumped that there's two air shots in it. And then I was just like looking around, and I was like all by myself. Like there was nobody to high five. There was like nobody to be like, yeah, look what we did. Like we did this. Like it was so lonely that moment. I was like, damn, there's like nobody here who's like happy about this besides me. Like this is all me, and I'm all by myself with this. And then I ended up posting it on Facebook, because I mean, what else should I do? Then at least some people can give me a like or something, you know. But that was one of the moments where I felt most lonely, and that's that feeling. That's the feeling you miss when you don't have a team around you. This kind of just celebrating the successes together and having somebody to high five and to be like, yo, look what we did. This is awesome. No.
So especially in the successes you had, then feel really the need for the team, right?
Yeah.
There's something missing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I said, I was kind of forced into the situation of doing it by myself. It was never the plan. but it ended up working out kind of like that. And yeah, I now already have actually one, like my brother for sure is actually already in there doing a lot of stuff, and there's 2 people who are like getting into it more and more now, and they will also join the team most likely. So I'm already on the way of becoming making a team again, growing a team.
That sounds awesome. You already started with a bit of kind of bragging what AER already did. What else did AER achieve already?
Oh, many things.
Now's the time to brag about it.
Now is the time to brag. Okay, I don't want to do this too long, so I should choose wisely what I mentioned. I think what I'm most proud of is kind of this community that I'm building. It's not like people are really attached to the brand and the community of these people who have AER. There's now, we sold like around about 4,300 units in over 70 countries. So it's also a very global thing, which I'm also proud of. Like really in Asia, South America, some parts of Africa, even Europe, obviously, North America. So people are all over the world have my product, and not all of them, but a part of them is really actively engaged in the stuff I'm doing and we're doing as a brand, and we're doing contests and things like that. And people give me feedback, and they text me, and I show them a lot of behind the scenes stuff on my Instagram account, and they react to that, and they have ideas, and that's something I'm most proud of. That it's not just something like you order it and then you get it and then you have it in your shelf and that's it. But like by buying our product, you kind of get a chance to become part of this community and to meet new people. And now I see like people, commenting on each other's posts and talking and discussing things, and they only know each other because of AER. Like there's like a Brazilian dude and a German guy, and I see the German guy posts an AER shot, and the Brazilian dude is like, hey, another great shot, blah, blah, blah. How was your weekend? And then they're like, blah, blah. And they're like getting connected just because they have the same GoPro accessory. And that's something I'm proud of. And then, of course, there were a few of these occasions that, like the one with Nike, where it's just being used in really cool productions for cool people. And if you want me to brag, I would say that there's a movie coming out in the German theaters soon, where there's an AER shot in. Maybe it's already out actually. The Bundesliga has. I'm as I said a big football fan, a football player myself. Every single Bundesliga team of last year's season of the first league were throwing AER. There's footage of every team throwing my product, which is fun.
That must be really awesome. Those players take your AER and throw it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Can imagine, yeah.
Cool. Actually, the story behind this is that people from the Bundesliga media team reached out to me, and they do these media days where they go every weekend during the summer to a different team, and they take the official team photos and things like that. And they wanted something to give to the players so they can have some fun while producing content. And that's what they did. And they just kind of ordered a bunch of AERs, and I was in touch with them, and I gave them all the AERs, and then I kind of didn't hear from them anymore. So I was like, I wonder if they used it, if it's cool or not. And then I just randomly see a post by VfB Stuttgart, which is the local club of the city I'm from in Germany. You see a flag behind me if you watch the video. And I just see an Instagram post of them, one of their players just throwing an AER, and I just see that randomly on Instagram. And they didn't use our hashtag or anything like that. I just followed their page, and then all of a sudden I see the team that I grew up admiring, going to the stadium, the professional team that I'm a fan of, I on their Instagram see that they're throwing AER. And that was one of those things. I'm like, yeah, sick. This is really cool. And this was still in the beginning when Mark and Nick and Dan were still part of it. So I had somebody to high five also. So that was, just recently, 5 days ago, the trailer commercial for FIFA 19, the video game, EA Sports FIFA, came out. also with an air shot in it.
No way.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't know
that's
this.
another thing that
That's
just
sick.
happened recently. Then also something that happened recently was yesterday. Some people might know the event RedBull cliff diving. It's these cliff diving dudes who go from like 30 meters and do crazy jumps. They are always doing a live stream because it's like a live sporting event. And they opened up the live stream, like the very first few seconds were an air shot. And I like
No
a friend
way.
of mine here in the office that I work in now was just like, hey, I'm gonna watch the RedBull cliff diving thing now, and he like puts on the live stream and he's like, yo, this is an air shot, and I was just like, whoa, sick. So yeah, RedBull is using it now for some events, things like that. National Geographic's they're doing the next version of Planet Earth. They also ordered some airs, and I was in contact with one of the producers because they want to do a certain shot that they are going to use an air for. Yeah, every now and then there's these cool people with cool projects who do, who use my product.
That's really awesome. And we already have over 50 minutes of speaking behind us.
Okay, great.
And so I want to like go a bit in the direction of the ending and have a couple of like short questions for you, and then we slowly close this. So first, for the company, how do you see the company AER in 5 years, or where do you see it?
I hope that the company AER in 5 years has a bunch of different products, all kind of still with the same mission of giving people the chance to capture the world around them in new ways. I hope it's even bigger than it is now, a lot bigger than it is now. I hope it's really a global brand that gets kind of mentioned within all the other camera brands. Yeah, I would say in 5 years we should at least have 5 different products, and not only limited to throwable camera accessories, but all kinds of stuff that enables people to make new ways of seeing and capturing the world around them. Yeah.
Okay, and where do you see yourself then in 5 years?
Still in charge of that company. Another thing that we didn't talk about at all now is that I don't want this company to be based in one place in the world. I want this to be a global thing, and reading more and more articles and getting more and more into the topic of remote work. And I think there's a lot of potential there, and I want to build up this new team also, kind of with everybody having the chance to work remotely. I don't want to be limited to one spot. So yeah, in 5 years, I see myself traveling the world, going from visiting my employees who are spread out all over the world. I see myself running events, like workshops where together you capture content, workshop where we together with the community design the next products, and just use our products. So I want to also get into events and kind of lead this team of people all over the world who work on the same goal.
Impressive. And then what was kind of maybe the most influential sentence or quote or line you had, which maybe pushed you through all this or helped you in growing?
I saw this question already because you gave me a little bit of preparation time, and I want to tell a little story because I actually have this notes file in my Evernote account where I have a bunch of different quotes and sentences that are exactly like that keep me going and inspire me. And also, a little side note, exactly that note in Evernote started with me visiting one of your kind of workshop presentations about a gratitude journal. So I kind of have this journal. Yeah, I have this journal where I keep journaling like almost every day. I try to do it every day. It doesn't work every single day, but I try to. And on top of that journal, like on top of the document, are these quotes that I just kind of heard or read somewhere, and it's a bunch of different ones. And I guess I could just I guess I can just choose a few that I can read out now. So one of them is, yeah, that's actually the only one I don't have it doesn't matter. So one of the quotes is, "You are what you do, not what you intend to do." And it's by Mark Stevenson. I don't know who Mark Stevenson is or why he said that, but it resonated with me. You are what you do, not what you intend to do. That's something that just kind of like, yeah, it's all about execution. It's basically the same thing. You just gotta like, because I like, especially in this world of entrepreneurship, and I'm trying to consume less and less content of that world, but there is a lot of content out there, and they're all very inspiring, and like you can read all these books, like the books from Tim Ferriss and people of that sort, and they all have so much valuable things. But just because you read a book by Tim Ferriss doesn't mean anything. Like you need to do it, and you don't just need to intend to do it. Like you can read a book about everything, but just because you want to do that doesn't mean that's what you do. So you are what you do, not what you intend to do. I think people with a lot of ambitions, you need to have the right ambitions, but first of all, what's even more important, you need to act upon them. Otherwise, they're not worth anything. Can I read a few more? I have a bunch.
Of course, yes.
More. One of the things that I wrote out during that time where I was feeling overwhelmed and kind of stressed out and working a lot is a quote by Brian Tracy, and it says, "There's never enough time to do everything, but there's always enough time to do the most important thing." That just makes sense. So you can't do everything, but figure out, like, get your priorities straight, and then just do the thing that's most important. And oftentimes the thing that's also a quote, it's not by me, but somebody said that the thing that you want to do least is the thing you should do. Like that's probably the most important thing. The thing you really don't want to do, probably you should start with that. So that's
what's
something
that for you?
At the moment, very specifically, finishing up the business plan, because I'm making a new version of the business plan, and I have a very, very hard deadline on Thursday, and I need to finish that, and it's the stuff that I enjoy least when working on all kinds of things for AER. But I need to do that. I have even more. Another one maybe is actually something my dad told me, and that's probably because you phrased the question something like, what's the sentence that had most impact on you, or something like that. That certainly had the most impact to you just because it came from my dad. And he said something like, I'm translating now, he said this in German, is, "I wish you all the success and don't forget to live." And that is something that hit me hard, because my dad himself is kind of like a workaholic. He works so much, and it was always me complaining or like wondering, like, why does this guy work so much? Like, he should just like relax and actually like enjoy life. And then it was him who told me, like, good luck, but don't forget to live. And I was like, damn, now he's telling me, like, don't forget to live. And that really like hit me, and I was like, damn, I shouldn't forget to live. And
I can
to actually
feel how it hit you.
I did. It was intense. So I wrote it down. That's the first thing that's the most important one. That's the top one. Like,
wow.
Good luck, don't forget to live, and then death. And so he said that. And another one that kind of goes in that. I'm really proud of these quotes, as you can tell.
I don't want to interrupt you right now.
Another one is Bertrand Russell. I don't know who these people are. I just like got their quotes somewhere and wrote it down. It goes, "The time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time."
Ooh.
And that's another one that really resonated with me, because in the end, like, everything we're doing is like, the ultimate goal, at least for me, is like to be happy. So you work, and then you get the money, and you work, and then people use your product, which makes you happy, and then you're proud, and then you're happy. Like, the end goal is always being happy. And if you now, instead of working on that goal that in the end leads up to happiness, you're wasting your time because you're, I don't know, hanging out with friends, drinking, partying, whatever it is. I don't know, maybe drinking, partying not, but whatever it is you're doing, instead of working on that thing that leads to happiness, already makes you super happy, then, like, do that. Like, why would you go all of this thing to eventually, maybe, hopefully find happiness, if what you're doing at that moment is already, like, giving you happiness? So the time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time. Yeah.
All right. You've spent a lot of time on this, right?
On these quotes.
Yeah, like finding them, maybe also reading through them, I guess.
Yeah, I love finding these kind of quotes, and then I write them down on my phone in this kind of in this document that I open every day. So the first thing I see when I open a document are these quotes, and then I start journaling. Yeah.
Cool. And even more impressive is, or for me, I'm proud that you started this after a presentation of our group. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I did. You guys focused on the kind of gratitude journaling. I'm not doing that so much anymore, but I'm just doing like a general journal where I just write down thoughts and things that I'm doing. Yeah.
Does it work?
It works. Yeah, it's very helpful.
Right.
For me. So yeah, yeah. That's something I see the benefit of it almost every day, where I just force myself to sort my thoughts, because there's so much going on, and then at night I force myself to write the thoughts out, and then I force to give them structure, and that helps me often to see, like, the bigger picture, and to then eventually, like, it's funny, because whenever I do journaling, like, Evernote is open on the right of my desktop, and on the left side is my to-do list. So while I'm journaling, I'm actually defining, like, oftentimes I'm finding things that I should be doing, and then I put them in the to-do list for the next day, or like whatever. Yeah.
Oh damn! Hopefully many will listen to this until the end. So many good parts you mentioned, just like right in the end. All right. Maybe we have to do another one. I mean, we have enough stuff to talk about, I feel.
Oh, sure. I'd be definitely down to do another episode.
Okay, but for now, going to the last two questions, basically. So, what does the ambitious sloth mean to you, and how can you maybe see yourself related to this?
The ambitious sloth. It's I mean, several different angles onto this, I guess. One thing is, it's kind of, it goes back to, like, you are what you do, not what you intend to do. It's just like the perfect example for me of somebody, and that's you, acting upon the intent. Like, you want to do a podcast, and all of a sudden you're just doing a podcast, and you got like several episodes out, and it's just actually working, and it's doing stuff. So it's kind of inspiring in that way. It's for me, just, it shows me, like, all right, if you want to do things, you can just do them, and there's nothing that stops you, and that's putting it very simple. And a lot of people have things that stop them, but in that case not. The Ambitious Sloth, I think, is a great name for a podcast. I think I really like the name, and I think I told you this before, that I think it fits perfectly. But
why though?
Why it's a good name? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to define right now. Because a sloth, in the first instance, gives you the impression of, like, a slow animal, who takes his time and does everything really slowly and calmly, but also relaxed, and at the same time it appears to me as a happy animal. Like, you know how there's animals that feel always stressed,
Yeah.
And there's animals who feel really happy and balanced, and that's what a sloth is to me.
They seem as if
And
they smile all the time.
exactly, they seem like. Do you know the story that they sometimes grab their own arms, thinking it's a branch? Like they sometimes grab with one arm, they grab their other arm, thinking it's a branch, and then they fall down.
No. That's cool.
So funny. Yeah. Yeah, but then of course, like the first word of ambitious is cool, because it shows you that even you, it might look like from the outside like you're moving really slowly, you're actually really ambitious in doing things. Yeah, and that's why I think it's a good name.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And basically, the last question is more for you in order to give people opportunities to find you, and especially like maybe you still need people for something. So what kind of people do you need, and who should or can find you, and where?
What I need is I need so much. I need so many people. I need if any of you is listening to this podcast and would like to be part of what I'm doing and what AER is doing, send me an email or send me an application, or just let me know who you are and what you want to do. As I said, it's like a global brand, and I'm an advocate of remote working. So it doesn't matter where in the world you are, maybe in Hong Kong, if you found people there who are listening to the podcast. They should just contact me. I'm open. Like, I read every single email and I answer every email, and whatever channel you use to reach out to me. So I'm still looking to expand the team, find more people who want to be part of this. And then you can find me on Instagram. That's where I do most of my social media stuff. That's at pablo.aer, also at pablo.aer, or just the brand's Instagram, which is at AER Video. And then maybe Twitter, Pablo_aer is my Twitter handle. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think that was already it after, 1 hour and 10 minutes? Took a bit longer than expected, to be honest.
That's okay.
But I feel, I mean, it was just a lot of what we covered, and I still want to ask many more questions I wrote down, but I didn't come to that yet. So, thank you so much for taking your time coming here, and not really coming here, but Skyping with me.
You're welcome.
And I hope
it was a lot of fun. Thanks.
Still have a great day. And thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right.